Hey gang, it's your buddy Plant. Today I asked the question, Skittles, will it ferment? Let's go. So today I'm bringing back another video series. It's been over a year or so since I've done one of these videos. It's the Will It Ferment video series. If you're not familiar with the concept behind it, I did several videos, and I want to do some more, on just non-typical items to make alcohol of. We're just going to see if it ferments, because when we get the yeast going, yeast will give us that alcohol. So we want to see if things ferment. We've done cola, orange juice, sports drinks, cotton candy, and we just kind of want to see different things that we can ferment. And I've always wanted to do Skittles. I'm not a candy guy. You probably can't tell by looking at me, but I'm not a candy guy. But I do love an occasional Skittle. So we're going to go with that today. A little background on Skittles. Skittles were invented back in 1974 in Great Britain. Apparently it was a subsidiary or distributor of the Mars Candy Company. Had created the concept. Came to the U.S., I want to say 1983. That's when the Mars Candy Company released it. The name Skittles is actually derived from a lawn/pub game over in the UK. It supposedly is the precursor to nine-pin bowling, and supposedly the game is still played in pubs today. So maybe we're bringing it back full circle. See if we can ferment Skittles. A little background on how this experiment works. What we do is we take whatever we're going to ferment. We do a 1 gallon batch. We let it ferment for 1 week, or we give it 1 week to see if it does ferment. And then after that, I'll taste it and do a hydrometer reading. We see if we got alcohol. I think 1 or 2 things have failed. I can't remember offhand. So this doesn't always work, and that's kind of part of the experiment, just to see if something does or doesn't work. I don't do any other real adjustments as far as any kind of cooking or adding any kind of crazy chemicals. The only thing I really will add is yeast nutrient, because a lot of times, especially like with Skittles, Lifesavers, Jolly Ranchers, what have you, it's just pure sugar, and the yeast also needs some nutrients, so we'll supplement that sometimes. Also too, I generally in these experiments have always used Saf-Ale US-05, kind of a generic ale yeast that gets used in home brewing. It's just a good hearty yeast. I am going to switch it up this time, just because I'm out of Saf-Ale. I'm going to use a Lavalin wine yeast. This is another excellent yeast, the EC1118. Just a good yeast. It's always worked for me, give me good clean fermentation, so we'll go with that. But pretty much any beer wine yeast will work for this experiment. First thing you need to do if you want to see if something will ferment is we have to read the ingredients, so let's check that out. First, sugar. That definitely works for us. Corn syrup. That still works for us. Hydrogenated palm kernel oil. I have not specifically ran into this one, but other items we've had these oils and hasn't been a real problem. If we were brewing a beer worried about head retention, that would be a problem, but that is not part of this. After that, these are less than 2% of total volume. Citric acid. That sounds like an issue, but really not. When we did the fermentation of orange juice, we ran into that, and I think a couple other things. So citric acid is not an issue. Tapioca dextrin, I don't think that's going to be an issue. We have modified cornstarch. That shouldn't be an issue. Natural and artificial flavors. We've ran into that several times. Jolly Ranchers, Lifesavers, stuff like that, again, has not been an issue. The various food colors, red food color number 40, yellow number 5, blue number 2, yellow number 6. Those we've ran into in the past, have not had a problem. Titanium dioxide, that one I had to do some research on in a double take, because titanium in my Skittles. But apparently titanium dioxide is a food colorant, and it's been used for 100 years, so apparently it is safe. Next, we have some more food coloring, and then we go to sodium citrate. That, another one that kind of sounds off, but it is a form of salt that is used for emulsifying oils. Remember, we have the palm oil in there, so that works. And then lastly, carnauba wax. I'm going to presume that is for the shell. Again, I don't see that one being an issue as far as fermentation goes. again, probably not good for head retention. So it looks like we should have something here. Let me kind of give an overview of our process. Like I said, we're doing a 1 gallon batch. This is a 15.6 pound bag, roughly a pound bag. When I've done, in the past, me and friends have done infusions with Skittles, like vodka infusions, and even after it sits in the vodka X amount of time and kind of dissolves in there, there's still some physical matter. So we're going to have to dissolve this Skittles and then filter that out. So what we're going to do is I have my 1 gallon fermenter. I've got it sanitizing right now, but I'm going to dump this out. We're going to put in our Skittles and some hot water, and we're going to let that sit overnight to dissolve our Skittles, and then we'll filter out whatever particulate we have. And then we'll add our yeast, and we'll do a hydrometer reading because we need to know where we're starting. So at the end of the week, we can see if alcohol has been created. That's a true way to test that. And then we'll give her a try. So let me go ahead and get our Skittles in. We'll let this sit overnight, and we'll come back 24 hours and add our yeast. All right, real quick, gang, I just want to show you all this wax that is separated away when we dissolved our Skittles. It's all sitting up here, so I let it sit another night just because I wanted to make sure all that wax was gone. But I just felt like I had to show you this. So that was just crazy, the amount of wax that was in there. So I put her into another fermentation vessel. Did a quick gravity reading. We're only at 1.020. We're probably only going to get about 2 to 3% alcohol by volume. Apparently there wasn't that much actual sugar in those Skittles. I guess it's all just wax and whatever. Real quick before we get things going, we're going to add our yeast and yeast nutrients. About 1/4 teaspoon is good for, half a teaspoon is good for 1 gallon size. Again, we just want to give the yeast a little extra food. There's not that much sugar for them. And we'll give this a quick swirl. If you don't have access to yeast nutrient, throw in a few raisins. That's what a lot of like your moonshiners and people that don't have access to homebrewing stuff or whatever, they'll use raisins. So throw in little raisins, and then probably about 2 grams of our yeast. That should be good. And we're going to put airlock on, and we're going to come back in 1 week and see if our Skittles fermented. Alright gang, so it's been a little over the week, and we're going to come back and see what we have. I did a hydrometer reading, and we're only about at 1.5% alcohol by volume. It's still fairly active in the fermentation. This fermentation's taken longer than some of the other things like peppermint candy and sports drinks or whatever that fermented before. But we did get alcohol. Now, I haven't tasted it yet, so let's see what we've got from our fermented Skittles. The nose almost smells like one of them candles from Bed Bath and Body Works, or Bed Bath and Beyond or whatever. Wow, that's funny. Let's give her a try. Not much flavor there. There's a little bit of sweetness. 1.5% alcohol. Not much there to it. Looking in the light, I've got a little bit of a film. If you remember, we had a ton of wax, before we threw in the yeast. Yeah, there's just not much to it. So, to answer the question, will it ferment? Will Skittles ferment? The answer is yes. Now, the real question is this really worth our time and effort? We would probably have to throw in like 3 pounds of Skittles and probably let this ferment out at least for a couple of weeks to maybe get to 4 or 5% alcohol by volume. There are a lot more efficient ways, and you can find that on this channel and even in this series. If you're wanting to create alcohol, there's definitely more efficient ways, and there's not much flavor to this, so it's not like, well, it at least tastes good. Like one thing about the peppermint candy, when we fermented that, I mean, you tasted it, you got that flavor. Even though, if I remember right, really strong alcohol. It did produce a decent amount, but at least you had got the flavor. This, there's not much flavor. You're just taking off a lot of wax and pectin and you know, some of the other byproducts, but it will ferment. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on their Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.